Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, for what has been, you could say, a pivotal moment in the India's biotech journey. And of course, with now the government actually also putting in a lot of effort, I think this will be a great. So thank you so much once again for your presentation. I have now, along with Saumil, my co-culprit in this whole activity, to actually kickstart the panel discussion. We have three eminent gentlemen who will be in the panel, all of them having very illustrious career and also continuing to support life sciences R&D in their own capacities. Can we have, could say the first, I have pleasure of inviting Mr. Sudarshan Jain. Mr. Jain is Secretary General, Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, has been in the industry for almost 4 decades now and counting. He's very, you could say, involved in the running of IPA with all its different, you could say, interactions, whether it is with the government, with the industry, with institutions. He kind of like is a senior advisor to several research alliances, also with the Indian Institute of Health Management and Research at Jaipur. He was a former MD of Abbott, has held senior roles in J&J, Boots, and several other pharmaceutical companies, including also serving on the government side as the chair for the LSSS DCS, which as we know is the skilling part of the government. Thank you, Mr. Jain, and warm welcome to the panel. Next, we have Mr. Sanjiv Navangul, currently Managing Director and CEO, Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited, BSV, which is now a Mankind group of company. He has also had a very tenured career within pharma, starting as, you could say, within MSD, Johnson & Johnson, where he has been Managing Director across Asia-Pac, not just in India, and also on Fulford, India's board. He is also a former Vice President of OPPI and Chairman of AmCham, and has, or rather as the MD and CEO of BSV, he has been the guiding force in, you could say, driving this innovative organization, which ultimately led to one of the biggest acquisitions by Mankind in 2024. Thank you, Mr. Navangul, and please join us on the panel. And the third panelist is Mr. KG Ananthakrishnan, former Secretary General of OPPI, again a senior industry veteran with over more than 4 decades of executive management, strategic leadership, and you could say being part of several organizations, including being the VP and Managing Director of Merck, MSD as it is known in other parts of the world, and also being part of Pfizer, Pharmacia, and Novartis India. He currently also has other non-pharma roles too, as independent director, etc., but is a thought leader who has, you could say, guided many of us during our industry journey. So please join us on the panel, Mr. KG Ananthakrishnan. And let's kind of, let me move into my moderator chair. So maybe without further ado, and I know we are in a little bit of a time crunch here, maybe if I may ask each of you gentlemen to actually talk maybe a little bit about an incident or an event or something you have actually been directly responsible for the success of it, whether as an administrator, whether as a leader for that activity, which may not be well appreciated, but happened during the course of your leadership journey. Yeah, Mr. Jain, yes.
So good afternoon to all of you, or good morning. Thank you very much, for inviting us. Thank you to Vasu Foundation, and thanks, Sanish, to lead this discussion. It is such an exciting moment today. We started with Dr. Sarup, who has played a very important role in policy shaping. Then we had Dr. Khurakiwala, who is talking of antibiotic resistance. And then we had Sanjay, a great friend, and made a difference in mRNA therapy. I will say that this is an inflection point for India as far as R&D is concerned. Number of stories starting the beginning of that journey. We had Dr. Glenn Saldana, AbbVie collaboration, $2.7 billion, biggest deal from India. We have Dr. Khurakiwala. We have got Sanjay. A lot of work happening in CAR-T cell therapy. It is a beginning, and it is a great moment. I remember Anand has been part of that. It is part to be a great, whenever three of us meet, we talk of innovation. 4 years back, there was a committee which was set up under the chairmanship of Pankaj Patel by DOP. And we said that if India has to move up the value chain, we are third largest in volume, 13th largest in value. 2/3 of the global market is innovation, 1/3 is generic. And as Dr. Khurakiwala was rightly pointing it out, we are a knowledge-based industry. Unless we move up the value chain, this industry cannot move forward. Fundamentally, it's innovation, innovation, innovation. And if you read today's paper, China has moved hell of a lot. And if you see top 10 institution, academic institution in the world, number 1 is from China. And China clearly, all over the world, recognize that if we have to be scientific, if we have to be a dominant power in the world, we have to be dominant in terms of scientific innovation, undoubtedly. Harvard used to be number 1, China is number 1 now in terms of academic institution. We decided 5 parameters, and I will say it is so important, and that report is so important, we have moved forward in many of the areas. First is regulatory reforms. Unless we make our regulatory system simplified, it takes around 34 months in India to get the clinical trial approval. It takes around 20 months in the US. So why will someone do clinical trials and do the work in India when something can be done much easier in other parts of the world? So first and foremost is regulatory reform, which is very, very important. Second is funding. Innovation is a different game, $1.5 billion to $2 billion. In no part of the world it can be done without government support. And whatever big companies are, you say that companies should invest. Yes, whereas you are spending 17% at $70-80 billion turnover. Our companies are $5-6 billion and 7% of that. It will not make the difference. So government funding is very, very important. And how do we make that system very, very manageable? Third part is industry-academic collaboration. Unless we get the talent, 1,000 talent story of China, unless we built our academic institution, and you see a lot happening in that area in last 5 to 7 years as far as other parts of the world is concerned. It is not that MIT or Harvard has reduced the number of papers which are coming out, but the number of papers which are coming out overall has gone up. And China has picked up that speed. So everyone is moving fast. And if you are static, you will be way behind the game. So industry-academic collaboration, accountability of system becomes very, very important. Fourth is you have to create innovation clusters because innovation happens in collaboration. And unless we do that, it doesn't happen. And fifth is policy framework. There has to be measurement system. The whole policy has to be favorable. Ease of doing business is important. Now, all these 5 are important. And I think there has been a movement in that direction. We can talk for the day. But it has been a landmark report. And we are seeing early signs, long way to go.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Jain, I think you bring in those 4 points which we have been debating over several times. And maybe it might also make sense maybe to start with KG to talk about the academia industry strengthening, right? And we talk a lot about that in several forums. And maybe I think while you were in OPPI, etc., there was also a lot of talks on that. So where have we reached and how are we progressing?
Thanks, Sanish, for giving this opportunity to be here. And also my compliments to Dr. Korakiwala and Dr. Sanjay Singh for the phenomenal work that is being done, which is a matter of pride for all of us as Indians. So my compliments to all of you. Just addressing the first question that you asked, Sanish, I'm on the board of Cohance Life Sciences. And when we see the scientists there working on the ADC part, it gives a lot of confidence, that this type of advanced technology on antibody drug conjugates or oligonucleotides, it's really coming up in India, and that's exactly what we need to nurture further, because that's going to be the future. So there's a lot of experience and talent that is available in this particular in our country. Coming to the academia industry collaboration, and I totally echo what Sudarshan Jain said, and we were part of the same committee catalyzing the R&D in India for pharma and medtech sector. And one of the fundamental stuff that we talked about was industry-academia collaboration. Because unless that happens, we are unlikely to really achieve our broader objectives and goals. Because the fundamental issue that we have is that today we have graduates emerging out of the institutions. They are lab experienced, but not industry experienced. They are not manufacturing experienced, and that's a big gap. And it is very important that that gap is addressed, and for which we need to have a tremendous amount of collaboration between the academia and the industry. And we did give, a few recommendations, and hopefully some of them are being taken forward. But while I'll go into that, Dr. Renu Swarup mentioned about the COVID time. What strikes me is that in a crisis moment in our country, we work extremely well. When there is a crisis, I think we work extremely well. We collaborate, we try and find a solution, we move at breakneck speed, and what have you. We do it extremely well. But once the crisis goes off, somehow we have a tendency to go back to the old ways of slowing down, which is a fundamental issue that is there. It is important that we must have that crisis mindset. Okay, we don't have the crisis, we don't need the crisis, but we need to have the crisis mindset to ensure that things move at a much more rapid pace in a collaborative manner so that things can move. Let me give one example. There is a new NEP that has come, National Education Policy, wherein which allows international universities to come and set up base in India. How much of progress has been made in that? Okay, what type of steps have been taken to accelerate it? If we can get extraordinary, universities from the US or from all over the world to come and set up the institutions over here, and we have very bright, fantastic students, just imagine the type of, inflection point that will give to get the right type of talent that we need for the industry to make it into a $300 billion that we are talking about. That's not a small number. We need to really act on it very, very fast. That is one part of it. I'm not only just talking about the the government help that is required. There is also a need for the industry, to really welcome, and that's where I admired what Dr. Korakiwala said, that they were always picking up, the students from the university, training them up, developing them up, and then making them into great scientists. That's a contribution which I think industry must do a lot more. Something is happening. Few organizations are doing it. But I think across the industry, we need to step up that particular area so that more and more students are getting that, industry-related experience at the shop floor level, and they are able to perform in a much better way to reach the goals that we are looking for. The third element is, I have not gone through that a lot in detail. Dr. Renu Surup said that they have set up a lot of, infrastructure that has been there to do foundational research, etc. I haven't gone through that a lot in detail. I hope and wish that it is working efficiently and it is collaborating with the industry, because it's extremely important. These academic institutions in collaboration with the industry can make a difference, can make the difference in terms of getting that product from the lab to the patient or the bed. That's what will make the real difference. The good part is that this report that we submitted, catalyzing the R&D, of medtech in India, quite a few of that have been at least translated into the national policy. Almost everything is sitting there in the national policy, which is a very good trend, and including this academia and industry collaboration. It is there as a policy. My only hope and belief is that it will get translated into action and doesn't just sit and remain there as a policy document. It needs to get translated into actionable collaboration between the academia and the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, KG. I think very, you could say, important points with regards to academia, industry collaboration. And I think these are the seeds that are sown, which may not kind of like immediately show the roots and this thing, but these are building for the long term for India. I know, Sanjiv, we don't have the regulatory agency members here, but the regulatory ecosystem is equally important in order for, you could say, innovation to actually be turbocharged, or you could say move forward. What do you think are tangible steps that needs to still happen for this innovation to actually get that push that is needed from an ecosystem regulatory perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, good morning everyone, and thank you for inviting me. One way to answer this question is to talk about what might be needed. Second way is to take you through an example of what I have gone through, yes, to help you, help everyone understand this. Look, how many of you, anybody here who has a blood group which is Rh negative? I see about 3-4 hands. So roughly in India, about 5 to 8% of people, and especially women, are Rh negative. Okay? And during childbirth, you need to give them an immunoglobulin. And until 50 years, the immunoglobulin was a human-derived, a male has to be stimulated, and then the process is done. A few years ago, we decided in our own labs to start working on trying to convert it into recombinant, which would be, others have tried in the world, the big companies have tried in the world and failed and got away from it. So we said, we'll try it. We have very strong biotech platforms, so we said, we'll do it. At every step, collaboration with the regulator was very strong. First of all, because this would be the world's first, be one of the world's first biologic to get out from India. It was a really difficult step to do. And the regulators were also saying that, look, we don't know about this. So they were trying to learn. The benefit we saw, the same regulators which we talk about all the time saying they did not do this or they did not do that, were ready to learn along with us, the science around it. And as we went along it today, in I think late 21, we got our recombinant immunoglobulin approved, which is the world's first and India's first biologic to go global. I don't think many people know about it. It has a non-proprietary INN from WHO. It has won the Prix Galien Award. So it is globally established that this is a real innovation. And at every step, we did not find the regulator really trying to ask us difficult questions which they did not know to trouble us or to stop us from doing it. They supported us throughout the process. We made one more commitment, and this is important for all of us as we go along drug discovery route, is to make world-class commitments. The commitment we made was we'll do a 20,000 patient phase 4 study. Now this is unheard of, yeah? There are many clinical research people here. 20,000 patient phase 4 study is unheard of. Ramesh is here somewhere. I think the current count is we have already done 15,000 patients. 17,000, Ramesh is saying 17,000, yeah? Today, US FDA and EM, when we talk to EU, they say that, look, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this, because 17,000 patients, phase 4 data available is unheard of globally. Yeah, in most big pharma hardly do it. Yeah. This is how you get regulators on your side to help you through, to understand that when you want to do any world-class thing. And we heard Dr. Khorakiwala, we heard Sanjay, really talk about everything that they are trying to do is world-class. So understand that our regulators are not there in terms of understanding all the science. Our regulators are not there in really seeing all the reforms well that is happening in the global stage, which is a fact of life. And we sometimes struggle with it. But if we are genuine and if we are, say, honest to what we are trying to do, they are very, very helpful. We will have to handhold the regulators to change the whole system that they have. We cannot, maybe, I don't want to take another example, but maybe later on I will give you one more example of how regulators work through to help us. Sanjay is there always with me. I think at the DCGI's office trying to, and most of the times our discussions center around trying to change the regulation. And we find them very cooperative. It is not easy to change because of the system we have, and that we should acknowledge. But is there willingness to change now? Yes. And I want all of you to be very assertive, very tough with the regulators, very, very aggressive in, say, putting your point across to help India move the regulatory framework in such a way that it becomes more and more conducive for us to do good work and not complain about, oh, this doesn't work or that doesn't work. We need to stand up and help our regulators get there.
Thank you. I think that's the fresh birth, I would say the perspective that needs to keep innovation driving forward. Coming back to you, Mr. Jain, I think we always have had this concern that do our startups and do our researchers have the funding that is required? Many a times, people say that we don't know where to go for funding, but by and large, over the years, the funding mechanisms have only become stronger with networks and government funding, etc., being available. Where do you think for maybe a new, you could say a startup or a researcher or an institution, can they actually look at playing that long game of, you could say, being invested, staying there, sometimes against all odds and still being able to be successful? So what are some of the government, private and other fundings that are available?
So thank you very much for this question. So when we started, say, around 5 years back, the concept of funding was not very, very clear. I would like to thank some of the secretaries of Government of India. And if you see last 3 years, the number of schemes which have been announced for pharma has been maximum. We had PLI scheme for APIs. We had PLI 2 scheme for large companies to invest in building capabilities. We have got PRIP scheme which has been announced now, 5,000 crores. We have got 1,00,000 crores for ANRF scheme which has been announced. Then a lot of projects have been funded during COVID times. Now the question is, yes, it is still a difficult game. It is not easy. You have to go after it. But the companies and the entrepreneurs who are focused, they find the way. And I will give the classic example of Glenn Saldanha. I admire him. He has been working on research for last 20 years. And the share market has always punished him for spending money on research. But he has been on it. But one success story, which we got through FV, $2.7 billion, made a lot of difference. In fact, we have the whole game of research is unique, and Dr. Kurakiwala, he was also talking how much time it took. So if we are focused that I am in the pharma business, I am in the biopharmaceutical business, where knowledge is fundamental. Yes, generic, we played that game, but you have to play future game. We have to be on it. You find out the ways, either in India, outside, and then there are mechanisms which helps you to pay. We are also working with private equity funds now, that they, because I am part of the private equity fund, equity, can we spend money on early research areas? There are a lot of venture funds which also play an important role. So if we have an idea, a great idea, a differentiating idea, there are avenues which are available. We are also talking to the government, can we revise SEBI regulation that a startup can go for IPO if even they are not making profit? So there is a lot which is happening. I will say still early, but once we start getting the success, it will start building up.
Thank you. I think that's a great, you could say, thing to hear, that even at the private segment, there are other opportunities other than the traditional, you could say, funding mechanisms that are there. Maybe to KG, and maybe Sanjiv can also chime in on this one. We talk a lot about being goal-focused, right, in research. And do you think the concept of, you could say, having a ready market or a ready availability of either the government or other procurement agencies to buy your research product is also an important concept for driving innovation in the country?
I would say yes and no, and I'm telling you why. Because when you're looking at a research-based molecule, you're not limiting it only to India. You're looking at across the globe. So when you're looking at from across the globe point of view, you have, I think in most of the advanced countries, it's all procured by the government. So you have a great opportunity to maximize in terms of revenues if you have a very successful molecule. So far as India is concerned, we must be very practical that while there is some degree of success in the government, largely for these expensive molecules that come in, there has been limited support so far as the government system is concerned. So we cannot be just dependent on just only the government system. But having said that, don't forget the private market, because many of these new molecules that have come, they have built huge market shares in India using various mechanisms of marketing, which I'm sure Saumil will be able to share a lot more. Yeah, so one need not be always dependent on the government sector for this. Private sector can also help, but then look just beyond the country, okay, wherein you can maximize the revenues. And I'll tell you now, not directly related to a product. Now, if you look at what's happening in Cohance Life Sciences, all our customers are the global pharma companies. We are supporting the global pharma companies at the level of basic research through all these platforms that we have, right? That's a great value addition that is happening. It's not a product-related example, but when you're looking at research, you can look at various, aspects in the continuum where we can play a significant role and maximize both in terms of intellectual capability and capacity and also the revenue generation ability. Yeah, that's my few cents.
Sanjiv, when you under your leadership, the company was developing the RHD immunoglobulin. For a moment, did you ever think that what if this doesn't succeed, and how would the clawback of, you could say, the R&D dollars or R&D rupees that has been spent, would you ever have thought that maybe is there some mechanism that somebody can absorb maybe the sunk cost that is there?
Yeah, I think there are two parts to it, Sanish. As people here who are very driven by science, I think we have to start with the concept that we are going to succeed. We cannot have this notion of failure from a science perspective. Yeah, because we learn something more. Even if we fail, there is progress in science. So that's fine. I think we should focus on that element. As regard the risk that you talk about from an investment point of view, I think some amount of risk is inherent to anything that you do. Yeah, whether you're in business, or commercial risk, or whether there is financial risk in R&D, this risk is there. But how do you manage that risk is by trying to think through that some of it will work, some of it will not work. And wherever it will work, you need to find how do you find markets properly. And therefore, you need to find a funding mechanism for your research continuously by making whatever you do successful also. And therefore, collaboration that you asked, KG, also a very important question is that, look, we don't have a system like what we have as WHO PQ, yeah? Where there is a certain buyback arrangement and there is certain support that you know that you invest in advance, there is a certain return at the end if you succeed. Yeah? And there will be certain quantity that will be picked up also. That we don't have. But let me give you another example that what we are trying by telling you how you can circumvent the whole thing. In India, we have a lot of snake bites, yeah, and a lot of deaths. I don't want to even name the numbers because they are horrendous. Despite, we probably are the largest makers of anti-snake venoms. Yeah? But then there are these 4 standard snake venoms that we combine and give, yeah, as cocktail therapy. Something will work. They are also toxic because ultimately, you know, as we say that the patient might survive, but the kidneys might go. Yeah. So there is this element that is there. So how do we? Why? Because the snakes in every region are not the same. So the Madras cobra is not the same as Northeast cobra. How do we manage it then for future? So we worked with the government and said, look, we need to find a policy to make it more regional specific. They said, fine, it is good, we'll encourage you. Then we said, look, you need to take some risk out of it also. ICMR started saying, okay, if you do this, we'll fund you so much. Small money, but they started funding part of it. As we are doing, we have encouraged states to join. So now there is Gujarat, there is West Bengal, there is Rajasthan, there is Karnataka saying that, okay, if you succeed in this, we will buy so much quantity, and they have given some indication of quantities 2 years in advance. Okay. Yeah, so as we get to the goal, we know that they will get involved and buy. So as we do research, especially in public health, especially because that question is more important from a public health standpoint, especially in public health research, we need to understand that we can get partnerships going. We can ask for help. We can convince people that things can happen, and therefore reduce risk in our R&D programs. But the biggest risk in R&D program that we can reduce is what I think both Sanjay and Dr. Korakiwala mentioned is that get your process world class, get it right. Don't, and there is a possibility today because of advanced technologies, including, and we are working with AI to understand that where can mistakes happen and where can we take them out. So the success rate has to go up, time has to decrease with the technology that we have, and try and reduce risk for our scientists to go after something which might not work.
Yeah, and it's also important to call out and appreciate that whether you take now BIRAC, whether you take ICMR, whether you take all these government institutions, the people there are our successful, you could say, impetus, as I would put
One quick one, Sanish, on not only them. I'll tell you, recently I was talking to the DBT secretary and told him that I set up the new biotech lab and had 23 licenses to take. And then you want small companies to be entering research. I said, look, first speak the truth. Yeah, learn to speak the truth as government that is not working. Admit that you are at fault and we can help you. Then he was very good. He said, you send me a note, list out what was there, what can change. And I sent him a note saying that these 23 licenses, only 4 are required. Rest please ensure as intimation. He has taken up with Niti Aayog members saying that why is this happening and why can't we change it immediately? So there is possibility of pushing them to the extent as individual companies, forget as bodies, as individual companies to push them hard on these things.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe a last one, Mr. Jain. What is your wish list when you reach maybe 2030? What do you want to see in 2030 on R&D innovation in India?
So thanks so much for this question. We have got Dr. Sridhar, who leads IPA innovation system, and innovation is number one priority. Just to add, IPA is supporting a Indian artificial intelligence research organization, which is going to be set up like ISRO. We are going to get number of scientists from US. How do we get AI into research? That's one. We have, last 2 days, we have also announced an institute at Ahmedabad, H Pharma Academy for Global Excellence. So I will say, yes, there will be movement forward in all the areas we talked about. But what will be critical to go forward is the talent. Talent is going to be the differentiating game. And as both KG and Sanjiv pointed out, we have to think at global level. We can't think on an incremental way. So talent and thinking big will make the big difference. We have set up an ambition that by 2047, if we can come with 100 new products, that is the vision which we have set up. We are seeing the early signs last 6 months. But once the momentum builds up,
Yes.
it will not stop. We have to get into mission mode. We have to get all the focus. And there are many companies which are getting into talent. Maybe Sanjiv will be able to talk, KG will be able to talk. All the companies are trying to build the talent. Talent, that will be the differentiating game. Vision is 100 products by 2047. And innovation and pharma will play a very important role. We want to be number one in volume in the world. And I want to talk 3 companies, 3 countries in the world in terms of innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panelists, for this wonderful, free-flowing exchange of thoughts. Really appreciate your time as well as, you could say, being here.
Can I add one line?
Yes, please.
Sanish, I think Sudarshan very well articulated. The way that I would look at it is today we call ourselves as pharmacy of the world. Fantastic. And I think that's being talked about everywhere. Say in another 10 years, 20 years, can we be called as the research headquarters for pharma or a pharma research headquarters? That's the type of direction in which we need to move. Okay, from the volume-based up to the real value-based stuff. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.